start off our conversation just by having you introduce yourself. I think that's the best way, and then we'll kind of get going and get into it.
Well, my name is Anna Elena Pepe. I'm Italian, Italian British, I should say. And I'm an actress and a screenwriter, and I work both in the UK, in Italy, and in the US.
That's amazing. And so you're in London right now as we're speaking, correct?
Today I'm in Italy actually.
Okay.
I came to visit my parents.
Oh, how nice. I love Italy. So I want
It's
to
very
first
nice.
ask you the question that I open all of my interviews with. What do you think people's first impression of you is?
I think of somebody who's warm and open, and I hope interesting.
Awesome. So since you say you hope interesting, what do you think that people would find most interesting about you?
I think the things that I have to say or the way I look at life, my path, I guess. Um, I think everyone is interesting
I agree with
if you,
you.
you know.
I agree with you. I think everyone's story is interesting, and like you said, the path that everyone takes is so different. And I think understanding it helps us relate to people. So, since you mentioned your path, tell me a little bit about your path to acting and how you got into screenwriting and short films.
So I started very early. I was a child actor, and it came to me quite surprisingly. Because, for example, I come from a very little city in Italy, so it wasn't Rome. So, but at the end, they did a film in my city when I was still in high school, and I got cast in it. And out of hundreds of girls, so I was like, wow, this is a fantastic world of film, and it stick with me, and I really wanted to be a part of it. Um, my parents were not really supportive because they're mathematicians, so that wasn't really like their to go career.
Right.
And what happened was I went to university anyway. I did biotechnology, and I kept doing theater, commercials, all different kinds of acting jobs all the way through university. But then, I became independent economically, and I got a job in London. I actually did a PhD, so I had a PhD bursary in a lab. And while I was doing my PhD, I was doing drama school in the evenings. And then slowly, when I got a British acting diploma, then I went into like acting full time.
Wow.
And the progression into writing my own stories is I did a master also in creative writing. And my professor at the time said, you can really do this. And I started seeing a lot of things that were produced that were not that great, especially for female artists. The parts were not that amazing. And I thought, I think I can write something better than this. So better get to it.
So you mentioned in the bio that you sent me, the kind of little blurb about you that I put up yesterday in preparation for us talking today, about having a desire and a passion for creating specific type of roles for women. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I say that I write unconventional female characters. Maybe I should like elaborate on that. What I mean is that you usually like we are exposed to a certain kind of female roles. Likely in the past few years has changed a lot. But when I started my career, you could be the girlfriend, the friend, the supportive young mother, and sometimes you feel like, oh, is that all that is out there? So I describe myself as a bit of a weirdo. I always see myself as, an outsider in a lot of situations. Maybe, also because of my history. Like, I've never been fully Italian, I've never been fully British, I'm certainly not American. So I always had this outsider point of view. And I was like, why can I not create characters that are more like that? Young females that are trying to find their place in the world, but then the place in the world is not that obvious. Nothing goes as expected. Or, when we see their flows, we also see them grow. And that can inspire other women that maybe watched a lot of TV, and for years they thought, oh, I don't see myself on TV, so maybe I don't have a place. But we can create our place.
You've written short films, and did you just complete one, or are you working on one right now?
I've written a lot of things, like a TV series that it's in development, a film. Obviously, the shorter projects are what is easier to get produced, because a lot of writers will understand. Like, even if you get optioned by a production company, then from them to get like Netflix to say, okay, we're actually producing this, there's a lot of stages. So I have a lot of projects at different levels of production. The ones that I can control more is like short films and web series that I also created, because those ones you can just make them by yourself.
Right.
So you can get some fundings, you can get some friends to help you produce them, and it's what, like, I would encourage a lot of people to do. When they say don't put all your eggs in one basket, that's what it is. Like, you have some more ambitious projects that will like need a lot of funding, and if then you get traction on those and those will happen, then great. But at the same time, just try to have a few projects that you can control fully and that you make happen.
So,
Also, like, from an artistic point of view, it changes, because the bigger ones, you'll have a lot of people jumping in saying, okay, but we change this, we change that. And instead something smaller, you can control your artistic vision.
I think that's so neat, and I love the um, kind of sharing of the process, so people can understand, maybe not to have tunnel vision and focus only on one thing, and understand the different dynamics of each avenue that you're taking. So, am I allowed to ask where your true passion lies now, since you started in acting and then you've kind of folded into writing? Are you allowed to say if you like one better than the other?
I like both. I think my vision will be eventually to be a showrunner. So to kind of have, a show that I have created and has my vision, in which I could act in, maybe not the main role, but, you create kind of like the world. Nowadays, there's a lot of artists that I also look up to, like Lena Dunham, or Rachel Bloom, or that started just like that. They were doing their own projects. Somebody noticed, and they liked their world, and gave them a platform to make that a world bigger. So I guess if you ask me what's my ideal career, will be something like that.
That sounds pretty amazing, and I think it would probably also feel very rewarding to be inside of that goal. So I hope you get there. That sounds awesome. um, so, what are you currently working on that is your next step, I should say?
Well, I've just been finishing a TV series in Italy. It's a historical drama called Leonardo. It's gonna be on, I think, Italian TV and then Netflix, and that I was in as an actress. Obviously, an historical drama, given the name. Don't have to tell you what's about.
Right.
pretty self-explanatory.
I think so.
And apart from that, I'm working on, I created this TV series, web series that has won awards, and it's now online. It's called Totò e Diana. It's about two Italian immigrants in London. They have two very different backgrounds, ages, walks of lives, but they are united by the fact of being immigrants in, a foreign city. So one just arrived, which is my character, and the other one has been there for 30 years. So even if they have, very different experience, they help each other, because the girl that just arrived needs guidance, but the guy who's been there for years maybe has lost a bit of the excitement of being in a foreign country. What they don't say a lot about immigrants is even if you've been in a country for a long time, it's difficult that you feel embedded in that country, especially if it's Britain. I think America, it's very open. Americans is a country of immigrants, but the UK is not. So there is a bit of this sense of like, yes, you now are a citizen, but you're not like really 100% British. So there is an exchange between these two characters. And I wanted to make, in Italy we have this thing called osteria. Like you had in the little villages, you had a bar or you had a restaurants in which people of all ages will meet and exchange experiences. And so, the older person will, exchange with the younger, and this will create a different kind of friendship. I think lately we have lost that, and I wanted to go back to that kind of feeling. And I think there was a very important cultural exchange of what was happening in those kind of like situations.
I would agree with that. But I think that's really neat, and I like that you talk about recreating that. So my question is, when you did that miniseries, it's a miniseries, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned how in London it really does feel that way for immigrants. Do you see that when you spend your time there, being from Italy originally?
I think obviously when you try to do a TV series, like you heighten the stakes, especially if you want to create comedy. Actually, I wanted to say hello to Aiste. She's watching us. She's another colleague of mine. We are writing another project together
Awesome. Hello,
about
Aista.
about foreign actors in London. So, and it's a comedy again, because I think that the main point is try to open people's heart with like humor, making them laugh. And then you try to deliver a powerful message. That's what you kind of fool the audience a little bit. And then you try to say what you want to say.
I love it.
This is a bit
I love it.
But so, obviously I loved London. All my adult life is linked to London. I'm very grateful to Britain and to the country. I just think sometimes it's nice to point out a bit of, the funny side of it. Like we did a clip called Herd Immunity, when Boris Johnson was going on about the fact of like, yeah, you should just allow this virus to pass. So I imagine these two Italians who went to Britain because they will think, there everything works better, they're more organized, and and they'll get protected, and then they're like, maybe we should go back, because this is a mess. They don't really know what's going on.
Speaking of the virus, how has that impacted your ability to move forward with some of your projects?
So I was quite lucky because, for example, the TV series in Italy, we were supposed to shoot in April, but then, as soon as it got better, we were able to shoot in June, and obviously we had the COVID tests, and everything was very well planned. So what I can say, I've been very protected. It's obviously something that requires more money to shoot something under COVID times, because you need to have all those levels of protection. Apart from that, I managed to shoot like a movie remotely. It's called the Central Authority. I think Matt probably told you about it. So everybody was connected, through a platform that we can't say what it is, but I think you might imagine what it is.
Yeah.
And we made a film like that. And then obviously writing, you can always do writing. I do a lot of voiceovers, and I have a home studio. So the work has moved remotely, let's say. You need to adapt a little bit. The filming, it's a bit more complicated, but if you are a part of a serious production, they will get it done somehow.
You definitely have no shortage of being busy and a lot on your plate, it sounds like. But the common theme I'm hearing through what we're talking about is really just diversifying your energy and your efforts, and really being involved in so many different aspects of something that you're passionate about. And that really speaks to me. I like it.
I think we should be, I'm a Buddhist, so I believe I'm a part of something that moves, like the universe that moves. So in this movement, the right thing will appear. It's obviously you can't do 200,000 things, but you can do a few. And also, this helps your attachment to the one thing, because it doesn't mean that you don't care about the different projects that you have, but there's so many things that go on in show business, some stuff that can work, so many things that cannot work, that I think there also needs to be like a certain kind of letting go. And I think that fact of having different projects going on at the same time helps with that.
I agree. I feel personally, I may not be in your same industry, but I feel like when I have multiple things going on, I thrive better, and I'm more organized and passionate about the things that I'm doing because I feel so invested in them all because everything's moving. I have two more questions. One, what is something that you would think would surprise people to know about you?
That I have a PhD in cardiovascular science.
Wow. So is that how
Yeah.
you kind of appeased your parents to keep going in the film? You're like, all right, I'll do the science thing for a minute.
Yeah, it's how I supported myself the first years in London, instead of being a waitress or stuff like that. I was working in a lab. I discovered this gene, which is called NRF3, was regulating the smooth muscle cell differentiation from stem cells to smooth muscle, and it helps in closing the arteriosclerotic plaques in cardiovascular disease.
Amazing.
So yeah, and actually, my science background has helped me in a lot of things, like it's all transferable skills, and also helped me to support myself a lot in a few first few years of my career. Like I was doing a lot of tutoring, and so I'm grateful to my past, and also now I understand everything they say about this virus. I know when it's like kind of
Well,
I have that science attitude where it's like, what is the source? Who
yep.
is saying this? What is the evidence of this?
Yep. Yeah, my fiance is an ear, nose, and throat doctor, so he has that same exact feeling and conversation that you're just having. So, last question, unless there's anything you'd like to share before I ask you our last question.
No, as I said, there's many projects going on, and I'm happy, to share them here when they're ready, and
Yeah, please.
to continue the conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do too. I'm always interested in things that people are doing. Like you said, I find everyone's journey just so fascinating, and I'm so honored to have met you, and I'm excited to watch the projects that you're going to post the links to so that I can see them. So, last question. If you had the opportunity just walking down the streets, whether it be Italy, London, US, and you could hold up a sign that would tell people one thing about Anna, what would you want them to know?
One thing about me, um, I would say just ask and I'll try to help you.